Hello, and welcome to Downtown Dance. I wanted to start a new series. This new series is about playing in a playground. So it's designed towards giving leaders and followers an opportunity to move around and move within a West Coast swing structure and practice some things that can build off of each other. So the first thing that we have to do is we're getting our spacing set up. So when I talk about playing with a playground, what I mean is we're going to create the shape of how we move in West Coast. And for our followers, this is a rectangle. So you'll notice that it's much smaller here than it is as it goes lengthwise. Somewhere in here is the space that your leader moves around. The little square in the back is geared towards our leader's movement. And so we want to be able to get the dimensions of what we move like. So one of the things that's really important is understanding how far are we going to step in order to do this. So I'm actually going to start at the opposite side. So I'm cozying my heels up to a strip that I put across the ground. And I went almost twice as wide as my hips for the width of this space. Anything too much further than that, and all of a sudden I'm not really maintaining my slot very well, and it's starting to become really abstract. So we're trying to keep some structure to how we move. We depend on that structure in West Coast swing to be able to understand where we are in relationship to each other, which allows us to build some really cool things. So we're keeping it a little bit tighter. I'm going to mostly be right in the middle third of this whole rectangle as I move. But I leave that extra opening as I start to play with angles and different shapes within my movement that kind of steps off slot, comes back in slot, so that we can have a balance of structure and creativity within that given structure. So the way I measured this out is I kind of went a little bit wider than my hips for the width of the box. And then for the length of it, what I did is I cozied up my heels, got to an anchored position, and then moved from here into a side pass. A side pass is going to be the most traveling that we do. And one of the key ingredients to the distance that I'm going to measure is that I'm creating a step that doesn't require me to move beyond my body. And what I mean by that is, what you'll notice is if I were to take a step that moved beyond the length of my foot landing on, in this case I'm going to toe lead, landing on the toe. If I were to move beyond this, all of a sudden I have to make adjustments within my standing leg to be able to get that extra distance. So in West Coast, we're keeping this up, we're keeping our legs straight, we create that space, and then we push and bend from that. So we're really not looking to get much bigger steps than somewhere in this range. That's a safe bet, right? Is how far can I reach without having to bend or accommodate with my standing leg? And if this is where it is, then I'm going to push and absorb that energy onto that step. I'm 6'2", 6'1" 3/4", if I'm being exact. And this distance of where I don't have to accommodate with my standing leg is not very far. So with that in mind, I'm cozying up my heels to the back, and again, we're just measuring out our length here for our playground. And so I'm going to create 1, 2, and then 3, and hit 4, and then I'm going to allow my anchor to float slightly, just slightly. I want to give myself some extra room in case I do want to play with an anchor that shifts mildly, but I'm really not looking to travel much after this floor. So 5 and 6. Again, I gave myself probably an extra half a foot. That's pretty close to a foot. An extra bit of space in case I'm playing with distance within my decided upon playground. This means that if I start a little bit closer or inside of my box, I can really get comfortable moving through this space without necessarily fearing I'm going to step too big. So what we're doing is we're defining the maximum boundary of how the dance would flow if we were given dance moves. So when I'm dancing this up, just going through some side passes, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and 6. I'm not too worried about stepping over it. Now this is the platform that I'm going to create a lot of different drills from. In my own practice, as I've grown my dance technique and ability and creativity, I always take simple drills and I make them deeper and more rich. So currently, I'm just creating a platform to move. I'm sure a lot of us can just use the excuse to move right now. And so this gives you a nice amount of space. This is something that can fit in a lot of kitchens. If you have to dance on carpet, I would say most of me training to become an all-star in West Coast Swing was done on carpet, just getting comfortable moving in my living room. So this is something that can be done basically wherever you want. The value in defining out on the ground the amount of space that you have to move is that you get to build a sensibility of what are you actually capable of moving like in West Coast Swing. Here we are, we're starting with just how do my basics move, right? Here's my sugar push. Here's how I would move within a sugar push. Here's how I would move within a whip. Like, how am I choosing to kind of use the distance within this given West Coast Swing structure, the relationship of a leader who stays pretty centered and creates that post, and the follower that kind of flows and gives that body flight up and down the slide. So create your square. There'll be more videos after this on kind of what to specifically think about and how to go about executing and expanding your dance based on that. But this is where we start. And if you put this on your ground, what I would love for you to do is just put on a song, like move in it, get comfortable, not thinking about like what is the spacing, but the idea that you consistently move in the given directions that the dance flows. I wouldn't use this space necessarily to do things like move forward and back and around and side, and like that's a very stylized version of movement that doesn't really follow that linear momentum that the dance kind of thrives on. Our pattern structures thrive on the ability of the follower to move up and down the slide, the leader to initiate and direct and use that to create really interesting structures, and for the follower to be able to move freely within their own body, within that given set of momentum and direction. Cool. So this is our jumping off point. There'll be other videos that also say, how to play in your playground with body flight, how to play in your playground with syncopated footwork, how to play in your playground with rhythmic structures, how to pay attention to angles. The angle is what I used as the example for our leaders, so I'll do that here as well. If I'm doing this, I can very easily move very flat, very square within this, right? So here I am using the playground and the way that I deem fit. But what happens when I can play with different angles? All of a sudden that was a very diagonal step that took my body very diagonal, which means I need to counter and find my way back. So I'm going to be dancing and looking for my use of these angles and what that looks like on my body as I move. So this will grow a lot with you. So hopefully you get this on your floor, you get moving and dancing. Lord knows we could all use some dance in our lives. So much love. I look forward to seeing you in my future videos.